The deep space research vessel Harmony's Edge drifted quietly through the darkness between stars. Captain Jiho sat in his command chair, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. His crew of 12 humans had been traveling for 6 months now, searching for rare minerals that Earth needed badly. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Science Officer Minji from her station. Her fingers danced across the control panel as she studied the readings. "There's an energy signature coming from the asteroid field ahead of us." Jiho leaned forward in his chair. In 20 years of space travel, he had learned that strange energy readings usually meant trouble. "What kind of energy signature?" Minji shook her head, her dark hair falling across her face. "I've never seen anything like it. It's not radioactive, or dangerous. It's almost like music." "Music?" Jiho raised his eyebrows. "In space?" "I know how it sounds, Captain. But the energy patterns have rhythm and harmony, like someone is singing out there." Communications Officer Yuna looked up from her station. "I'm not detecting any ships or artificial structures. Whatever it is, it's coming from the asteroids themselves." Jiho thought for a moment. Their mission was to find minerals, not investigate strange energy readings, but his curiosity was stronger than his caution. "Taman, take us closer. Nice and slow." Engineer Taman nodded from the pilot's seat. "Yes, Captain." Approaching the asteroid field now. The ship moved forward carefully. Through the viewing screen, they could see dozens of large rocks floating in space. Some were as big as houses, others as small as cars. The asteroid field stretched for miles in every direction. "The energy is getting stronger," Minji reported. "It's coming from that cluster of asteroids on the left." "I see something," said Yuna suddenly. She pointed at the screen. "Look at that small asteroid, the one that looks like a cube." Everyone turned to look. Among the rough, jagged asteroids, one stood out. It was perfectly cube-shaped and much smaller than the others. About the size of a large dog, it seemed to glow with a soft, warm light. "That's not an asteroid," whispered Dr. Sunho, the ship's science specialist. "It's moving." They all watched, in amazement as the cube-shaped object slowly rotated in space. Its surface was smooth and seemed to be made of some kind of crystal. The light came from inside, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "It's alive," Minji said in wonder. "The energy readings are coming from inside it. It's some kind of living creature." Jiho had seen many strange things in space, but this was new even, for him. "Is it dangerous?" "No, Captain. The energy it's giving off is completely harmless. In fact, it seems almost friendly." "Friendly?" Jiho asked. "How can energy be friendly?" Minji smiled. "The patterns are warm and welcoming, like it's trying to say hello." Medical Officer Sujin joined them on the bridge. She had been studying the readings from her medical station. "Its life signs are stable and healthy. Whatever it is, it's not in distress." "Should we try to communicate with it?" asked Yuna. Before Jiho could answer, the cube creature did something unexpected. It moved toward their ship. Not quickly or aggressively, but slowly and carefully, like a curious animal approaching a new friend. "It's coming to us," Taman said, his hands ready on the controls in case they needed to move away quickly. The creature stopped a few hundred meters from their ship and began to pulse with brighter light. The energy readings on Minji's instruments changed, forming new patterns. "It's trying to communicate," Yuna said excitedly. "The energy patterns are changing. It's like it's talking to us." Jiho made a decision. "Taman, open the cargo bay doors. Let's see what it wants to do." "Captain, is that safe?" asked Sujin. "It hasn't shown any hostile behavior, and we have force fields we can activate if needed." The cargo bay doors opened slowly. The cube creature seemed to understand what this meant. It moved closer, then stopped just outside the ship, as if asking permission to enter. "I think it wants to come aboard," said Minji. "The cargo bay has atmosphere and artificial gravity," Taman reported. "If it comes inside, it will be safe." Jiho nodded. "Lower the force field. Let's see what happens." The creature floated gently into the cargo bay. As soon as it was inside, It began to purr. The sound was soft and musical, like a cat purring, but with more harmony. It filled the entire ship with peaceful vibrations. "Oh my," said Haiwan, the cultural specialist, as she arrived on the bridge. "That sound is beautiful. It's making me feel calm and happy." The crew watched through the cargo bay cameras as the creature settled onto the floor. It seemed to be looking around, exploring its new environment with curiosity. "What should we call it?" asked Taman. "How about Pumma?" suggested Sujin, because of the purring sound it makes. Everyone agreed. Pumma seemed like a perfect name for their new friend. Over the next few hours, they learned more about Pumma. It seemed to eat energy instead of food, absorbing power from the ship's systems without causing any problems. In fact, wherever Pumma went, the ship's systems worked better. Lights were brighter, engines ran smoother, and even the air felt fresher. Taman was the first to interact directly with Pumma. He entered the cargo bay wearing a protective suit just in case, but Pumma immediately approached him, purring softly, and gently bumping against his legs like a friendly cat. "It's warm," Taman reported over the radio, "and it feels like smooth glass, but alive. I think it likes me." When Taman removed his gloves, Pumma nuzzled against his bare hands. The feeling was wonderful, like touching warm sunshine. "Captain," Taman said, his voice full of wonder, "I think we should keep it. Pumma isn't just harmless, it's helpful, and I think it wants to stay with us." Jiho called for a crew vote. Everyone wanted Pumma to stay. The creature had brought something special to their ship, something they had not realized they were missing, a sense of companionship and joy. "Welcome to the crew, Pumma," Jiho announced over the ship's speakers. Pumma's purring grew louder and happier, as if it understood every word. As the Harmony's Edge continued on its mission, Pumma explored every part of the ship. It seemed fascinated by everything, especially the work areas where the crew spent their time. Soon it became a common sight to see Pumma floating nearby while someone worked, its gentle purring making even the most difficult tasks seem easier. None of them knew that their small, innocent companion would soon face a choice that would change everything. For now, they were simply happy to have found a friend among the stars. 3 weeks had passed since Pumma joined the crew of the Harmony's Edge. The small cube creature had become everyone's favorite companion. It followed different crew members around the ship, always curious about their work. Pumma seemed to have a special gift for helping with repairs. When Engineer Taman worked on the ship's systems, Pumma would float nearby and somehow make everything work better. Broken circuits would suddenly start working again. Dim lights would shine brighter. Even the coffee maker in the kitchen worked perfectly when Pumma was around. "I don't understand how it does it," Taman told Captain Jiho one morning. "But wherever Pumma goes, our equipment runs like new. It's like having a living good luck charm." Science Officer Minji had been studying Pumma's energy patterns for weeks. "I think it can somehow balance electrical energy," she explained. "When our systems have problems, Pumma fixes the energy flow. I've never seen anything like it." Pumma had also learned to understand basic human emotions. When someone felt sad or worried, the small creature would come over and purr softly until they felt better. When someone was happy, Pumma's purring would become more musical and joyful. Communications Officer Yuna had been trying to teach Pumma simple words. So far, Pumma could not speak, but it seemed to understand much of what the humans said. It would change its purring sounds to match the mood of conversations. On this particular morning, Captain Jiho was drinking his coffee and reading reports when Yuna suddenly called out from her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a distress signal. It's very strong and coming from a nearby star system." Jiho set down his coffee and walked over to Yuna's station. "What kind of distress signal?" "It's not in any human language I know, but the computer is working on translation. The signal is repeating over and over and it sounds desperate." Dr. Sunho joined them on the bridge. As the ship's expert on alien life, he was always interested in new forms of communication. "Let me hear it," he said. Yuna played the signal through the bridge speakers. It was a series of musical tones, rising and falling like a sad song. Even without understanding the words, everyone could hear the fear and desperation in the sounds. The computer has finished the translation, Yuna announced. She read from her screen with a worried voice. Please help us. Our world is dying. We have little time left. Anyone who receives this message, please come to Zephyria. We are peaceful people. We need help. Zephyria, asked Jiho. I've never heard of that planet. Minji checked her star charts. It's in the Kepler system, about 2 days' travel from here. According to our records, it's home to a species called Zephyrians. They've never had contact with humans before. What else do our records say about them? Jiho asked. Not much, Minji replied. They're described as peaceful and advanced. They live in harmony with their planet's natural energy systems, but that's all we know. Dr. Sunho studied the distress signal more carefully. Captain, this signal is being broadcast on multiple frequencies at once. That means they're really desperate. They're trying to reach anyone who might be able to help. Jiho thought carefully. Their mission was to collect minerals, not to answer distress calls from unknown alien species, but he had always believed that helping others was more important than following orders. How long would it take us to reach Zephyria? He asked Taman. 2 days at maximum speed, Captain. And how long to get back to our original mission? Another 2 days. Jiho looked around at his crew. He could see in their faces that they all wanted to help. All right, change course for Zephyria. We're going to see what we can do. As Taman began preparing the ship for the journey, something strange happened. Pumma, which had been quietly floating near the bridge entrance, suddenly began making different sounds. Instead of its usual gentle purring, it was making sharp, worried noises. What's wrong with Pumma? Asked Sujin, coming over to examine their small friend. Pumma was floating back and forth rapidly, its light pulsing in quick, nervous flashes. It seemed upset about something. I've never seen it act like this before, said Taman with concern. Minji checked her instruments. Pumma's energy patterns are completely different. It's not calm and peaceful like usual. It's almost like it's afraid. Afraid of what? Asked Jiho. Before anyone could answer, Pumma did something it had never done before. It floated directly to the communications station where the distress signal was still playing. Then it began, making sounds that matched the musical tones of the Zephyrian message. That's impossible, whispered Yuna. It sounds like Pumma is trying to communicate with the signal. Dr. Sunho watched carefully as Pumma continued to respond to the distress call. Maybe it's not impossible. We know that Pumma can sense and control energy. What if it can also sense the emotions in the signal? You mean it can feel how scared the Zephyrians are? Asked Sujin. More than that, said Sunho. I think it might understand what's happening to them. As the ship traveled towards Zephyria, Pumma's behavior became more and more unusual. It stopped following crew members around the ship. Instead, it stayed near the communication station, listening to the distress signal that continued to repeat every few minutes. The small creature's light grew dimmer, and its purring became sad and worried. It was clear that something about the Zephyrian crisis was affecting Pumma deeply. It's like Pumma knows something we don't, Taman observed. Something about what's happening on Zephyria. Cultural specialist Haiwan had been studying the distress signal with Dr. Sunho. The message keeps mentioning their world's heart being broken, she reported. They say their energy source is failing, and without it, their entire planet will die. Energy source? Minji looked up from her instruments. That might explain why Pumma is so upset. We know it has a special connection to energy systems. Captain Jiho watched Pumma floating near the speakers, responding to each distress call with its own sad musical sounds. For the first time since they found their small friend, he felt worried. Whatever was waiting for them on Zephyria, it was something that frightened even Pumma. How much longer until we reach the planet, he asked. 18 hours, Captain, replied Taman. Good. Keep monitoring that distress signal, and keep an eye on Pumma. I have a feeling our little friend knows more about this crisis than we do. As the Harmony's Edge raced through space toward the dying world of Zephyria, Pumma continued its lonely vigil by the communication station. Its soft, sad sounds mixed with the desperate calls for help creating a haunting song that filled the ship with a sense of approaching sorrow. The Harmony's edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zephyria system. Through the main viewing screen, Captain Jiho and his crew saw a beautiful blue and green planet surrounded by several moons. But something was wrong. "Captain," said Science Officer Minji, studying her instruments with a worried expression. "The planet's energy readings are very unstable. Whatever powers their world is failing fast." "How long do they have?" asked Jiho. Minji shook her head. "At this rate of decline, maybe 2 or 3 days before complete system failure." Communications Officer Yuna was already working to contact the planet. "I'm receiving a response to our arrival signal," she announced. "They're sending coordinates for us to land in their capital city." As their ship entered Zephyria's atmosphere, the crew got their first close look at the alien world. Beautiful crystal cities stretched across, green valleys. Tall, graceful towers reached toward the sky, all glowing with soft, warm light. But that light was flickering and growing dimmer as they watched. "It's like the whole planet is a giant machine powered by light," observed Engineer Taman, "and that machine is breaking down." Pumma had been quiet during their approach to the planet, floating near the viewing screen and watching everything. But as they got closer to the surface, the small creature began to glow brighter. Its purring changed to excited, urgent sounds. "Pumma seems to recognize something about this place, Kla," said Medical Officer Sujin. "Its energy patterns are stronger than I've ever seen them." They landed in a large open area near the capital city of New Harmony. A group of aliens was waiting to meet them. The Zephyrians were tall and thin, with pale, almost transparent skin that seemed to glow from within. They had large, gentle eyes and moved with flowing, graceful motions. The leader of the group approached their ship. Dr. Sunho had prepared translation equipment, and soon they could understand each other. "I am Prime Minister Ethan," the alien leader said. His voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Thank you for coming to our world. We are grateful that someone answered our call for help." Captain Jiho stepped forward. "I'm Captain Jiho of the human ship Harmonies. Edge, we came as soon as we received your distress signal. What's happening to your planet?" Ethan's large eyes filled with sadness. "Our world's heart is dying. For thousands of years, it has provided all the energy our planet needs. It controls our weather, our gravity, even the air we breathe. But now it is failing and we don't know how to fix it." "What exactly is this world's heart?" asked Chief Engineer Donghae, who had joined the meeting. "Come, we will show you," said Ethan. "But I must warn you, the journey to the planet's core is dangerous. The energy storms are getting worse each day." The group traveled through the city in floating vehicles that moved without making any sound. Everywhere they looked, the crew could see signs of the crisis. Lights were dimming, buildings were shaking slightly, and the Zephyrian people looked scared and worried. "How many people live on your planet?" asked cultural specialist Hayuan. "Nearly 8 billion souls," replied Ethan. "All of them will die if we cannot restore the world's heart." They arrived at a massive building in the center of the city. It looked like a temple made of crystal and metal, with a deep shaft leading down into the planet's core. As they descended in a special elevator, the temperature grew warmer and the air filled with a humming sound. Pumma, which had been calm during the trip through the city, suddenly became very active. It began floating around the elevator excitedly, making musical sounds that seemed to match the humming they could hear from below. "Your small friend seems to understand our world," observed Ethan. "What kind of creature is it?" "We're not sure," admitted Captain Jiho. "We found Pumma in space a few weeks ago. It seems to have a special connection to energy systems." After what felt like hours, they reached the bottom of the shaft. The group stepped out into an enormous underground chamber. In the center was the most amazing thing any of the humans had ever seen. A crystal structure the size of a city block hung in the middle of the chamber, suspended by invisible forces. It was beautiful beyond description, made of what looked like living diamond that pulsed with inner light. But that light was flickering and unstable. Large cracks ran across its surface, and pieces occasionally broke off and fell to the chamber floor. "This is our world's heart," said Ethan. It has powered our civilization for over 10,000 years. But 3 months ago, it began to fail. Our scientists have tried everything, but nothing works. Physicist Kangmin studied the massive crystal with his instruments. It's incredible. This thing generates more energy than a small sun, but the harmonic frequencies are all wrong. It's like a musical instrument that's gone out of tune. That's exactly right, said Ethan with surprise. Our world's heart works by maintaining perfect harmonic balance, but that balance has been broken, and we don't know how to restore it. Dr. Sunho was taking readings with his medical equipment. The energy patterns from this crystal are similar to what we see from Pumma, but much more complex. As if responding to its name, Pumma suddenly shot forward toward the failing crystal. It stopped just a few meters away from the massive structure and began making the most beautiful sounds the humans had ever heard. The crystal seemed to respond, its flickering light becoming slightly more stable. Amazing, whispered Ethan. Your little friend is communicating with our world's heart. Minji checked her instruments frantically. Pumma's energy output just increased by over 300%. It's trying to help stabilize the crystal. But after a few minutes, Pumma's light dimmed and it floated back to the group, making tired, sad sounds. It's not strong enough, said Kangmin, studying his readings. Pumma can influence the crystal, but it would need to generate thousands of times more energy to actually fix it. Ethan looked at the small cube creature with new respect. Even though your friend cannot save us, we are honored that it tried. Few beings would risk themselves for strangers. As they prepared to return to the surface, Medical Officer Sujin made a discovery that would change everything. She had been running detailed scans of both Pumma and the world's heart crystal. Captain, she said quietly, pulling Jiho aside, I need to tell you something important. Pumma's internal structure is almost identical to the world's heart crystal. They're made of the same type of living energy matrix. What does that mean? Asked Jiho. Sujin's face was grave. It means Pumma isn't just similar to the crystal. It's the same type of being, just much smaller. And if my calculations are correct, Pumma could provide the harmonic frequency needed to repair the world's heart. That's wonderful news, said Jiho. No, Captain, Sujin replied sadly. It's not. To generate that much harmonic energy, Pumma would have to channel power far beyond what its small body can handle. It would save Zephyria, but the process would destroy Pumma completely. Jiho felt his heart sink as he understood what this meant. Their beloved little friend could save 8 billion lives, but only by giving up its own life in the process. Looking back at Pumma, still floating near the failing crystal and making worried sounds, Jiho realized they faced an impossible choice. How could they ask their friend to make such a sacrifice? But how could they let an entire world die when they had the power to save it? The weight of this terrible decision pressed down on everyone as they began the long journey back to the surface. Back on the surface of Zephyria, Captain Jiho called an emergency meeting in the Harmony's Edge. The entire crew gathered in the main conference room, their faces serious and worried. Pumma floated quietly in the corner, still making soft, concerned sounds about the dying planet. You all know why we're here, Jiho began. Dr. Sujin has discovered that Pumma might be able to save this world, but the cost would be Pumma's life. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at their small friend who had become so much more than just a pet or mascot. Pumma had become part of their family. Engineer Taman was the first to speak, his voice shaking with emotion. There has to be another way. We can't ask Pumma to die for people it doesn't even know. But we're talking about 8 billion lives, said Dr. Sunho quietly. That's more people than live on Earth. Pumma is a person too, Taman shot back. Just because it's small doesn't mean its life is worth less than anyone else's. Communications. Officer Yuna wiped tears from her eyes. I've been trying to find other solutions. Maybe we could build a machine to generate the harmonic frequencies. Maybe we could find another way to repair the crystal. Physicist Kangmin shook his head sadly. I've run the calculations dozens of times. The energy patterns are too complex for our technology to reproduce. Only a living energy being like Pumma could generate the exact frequencies needed. How long do we have to decide? Asked Medical Officer Sujin. Prime Minister Ethan, who had been quietly listening to the discussion, spoke up. Our scientists estimate that the world's heart will fail completely within 18 hours. After that, our atmosphere will begin to collapse. 18 hours, repeated Captain Jiho, and 8 billion people will die. Cultural specialist Hewan had been studying Zephyrian society during their visit. Captain, you should know that the Zephyrians are completely peaceful. They have no weapons, no military, no history of violence. They've spent their entire civilization in harmony with their world and each other. What's your point? Asked Jiho. They're innocent, Hewan said simply. Every single one of them. They've never hurt anyone or anything. If we let them die when we could save them, how is that different from murder? Taemin stood up angrily. So we should murder Pumma instead? How is that better? Because Pumma might choose to save them, said Dr. Sunho. We haven't asked what Pumma wants to do. Everyone turned to look at the small cube creature floating in the corner. Pumma had been listening to their conversation, its light pulsing gently as it followed the discussion. How can we ask it to choose? Asked Sujin. Pumma doesn't fully understand human language. How can we explain something so complicated? Maybe we don't need to explain, said Yuna thoughtfully. Pumma has been upset about the distress signals since we first received them. It's been trying to help the crystal since we arrived. Maybe it already understands the situation better than we do. As if responding to her words, Pumma floated over to the conference table where the crew was sitting. It moved slowly around, the table gently touching each person with its warm surface. The crew could feel love and gratitude flowing from their small friend. Then Pumma did something that surprised everyone. It floated to the room's main display screen and began making a series of musical tones. The tones were complex and beautiful, more sophisticated than any sounds Pumma had made before. It's trying to tell us something, said Yuna, working frantically at her translation equipment. The patterns are more complex than anything I've seen from Pumma before. After several minutes of work, Yuna looked up with tears in her eyes. I think I understand what Pumma is saying. It knows about the choice. It knows it can save Zephyria by giving up its life, and it's asking us to let it help. No, said Taemin firmly. We're not going to let Pumma sacrifice itself. There has to be another way. But Pumma floated over to Taemin and gently pressed against his hands. The engineer could feel warmth and determination from the small creature. Pumma made more musical sounds, softer and more personal this time. What is it saying now? Asked Jiho. Yuna listened carefully to the translation. Pumma is thanking us. It's saying that we gave it something it never had before, a family, a home. It's saying that saving Zephyria would be its way of thanking us for teaching it what love means. The room fell silent again. Several crew members were crying now, including tough engineer Donghae, who rarely showed emotion. There's something else, Yuna continued. Pumma is saying it's not afraid. It says that being part of the world's heart means it will still exist, just in a different form. It will become part of Zephyria's life energy, helping to keep the planet alive forever. Prime Minister Ethan stepped forward. Your friend would be honored by our people for all time. We would build monuments to remember its sacrifice. Our children would learn its story and carry its memory through the generations. That's not enough, Taemin said bitterly. Monuments don't bring back the dead. Pumma floated back to the center of the room and began glowing brighter than ever before. Its musical sounds filled the air with such beauty that everyone stopped talking to listen. The melody was sad, but also hopeful, like a farewell song that promised better days ahead. It's made its choice, whispered Captain Jiho. Pumma wants to save Zephyria, but we don't have to let it, said Taemin desperately. We can take Pumma back to our ship and leave. We can't force it to sacrifice itself. No, said Jiho quietly. But we can't force it not to either. If Pumma wants to save 8 billion innocent lives, do we have the right to stop it? The crew sat in silence, wrestling with the most difficult decision any of them had ever faced. Outside, they could see Zephyrian families in the streets, parents holding their children close as their world slowly died around them. "How much time do we have left?" asked Jiho. 12 hours, replied Ethan. "The world's heart is failing faster, now." Jiho looked around at his crew, then at Pumma, who was floating patiently in the center of the room waiting for their decision. "All right," he said finally. "If this is what Pumma wants, then we'll help it save Zephyria. But we do this, together. All of us will be there when it happens." Taman buried his face in his hands. "I can't watch our friend die." Pumma floated over to Taman one more time and pressed gently against his cheek. The engineer looked up to see the small creature's light pulsing with pure love and gratitude. "It's saying goodbye," Yuna translated through her tears. "And it's saying thank you for being its family." As the crew prepared for the most difficult hours of their lives, Pumma continued to glow with peaceful light, ready to give everything to save a world full of strangers who would become its legacy. The journey back to the planet's core felt different this time. The entire crew of the Harmony's Edge walked together through the crystal corridors, following Prime Minister Ethan and dozens of Zephyrian scientists. Pumma floated in the center of the group, glowing more brightly than anyone had ever seen. Word of the small creature's sacrifice had spread throughout the capital city. Thousands of Zephyrians lined the streets, their large eyes filled with gratitude and sorrow. Many held small lights in their hands, creating a river of gentle illumination that followed the procession to the world's heart chamber. "They're honoring Pumma," said cultural specialist Haiwan, watching the crowds. "In Zephyrian culture, lights represent the soul's journey to a higher existence." Engineer Taman walked close to Pumma, his face wet with tears he couldn't stop. The small creature kept bumping gently against his hand, offering comfort even though it was the one about to make the ultimate sacrifice. "I still can't believe we're doing this," Taman whispered. "Pumma wants to help them," replied Captain Jiho softly. "We have to respect that choice." When they reached the chamber containing the world's heart, the sight was even more dramatic than before. The massive crystal was now flickering like a dying candle. Large pieces had fallen from its surface, and the harmonic humming that filled the chamber was broken and harsh. "We have perhaps 2 hours before complete failure," announced Ethan. "After that, our planet's atmosphere will begin to collapse." Zephyrian scientists had prepared a special platform that would position Pumma at the exact center of the energy matrix surrounding the world's heart. From there, the small creature could channel its life force directly into the failing crystal. Dr. Sunho and Medical Officer Sujin had spent hours studying the process. "Pumma will need to synchronize its energy patterns with the crystal's base frequency," Sujin explained. "Once that connection is made, it will begin transferring its life energy to repair the harmonic matrix." "How long will it take?" asked Communications Officer Yuna. "The repair process should complete within minutes," replied Sujin. "But Pumma will need to maintain the connection until the crystal is fully stabilized. That could take up to an hour." "And Pumma won't survive that long," said Taman bitterly. "No," Sujin admitted quietly. "It won't." As the Zephyrian scientists made their final preparations, Pumma floated over to each member of the human crew, one last time. With Science Officer Minji, it created beautiful light patterns that danced in the air. With physicist Kangman, it harmonized with his equipment to make musical tones. With Chief Engineer Dong Hei, it helped repair a small device that had been broken for weeks. When Pumma came to Yuna, the communications officer had prepared something special. She had programmed her translation equipment to convert human speech into the musical tones that Pumma understood best. "We want you to know how much you mean to us," Yuna said, her words transformed into beautiful harmonics. "You taught us that family isn't about being the same species. It's about caring for each other." Pumma's response was the most complex musical message it had ever created. Yuna worked quickly to translate it, tears streaming down her face as she understood the meaning. "Pumma says that before it met us, it was just drifting alone in space. With no purpose, we gave it a reason to exist. Now it wants to use that existence to save others, just like we would do." Finally, Pumma came to Taman. The engineer knelt down so he could be closer to his small friend. Pumma settled gently in his hands, its warm surface pulsing with affection. "I don't want to lose you," Taman whispered. Pumma made soft, comforting sounds and pressed against Taman's chest right over his heart. The meaning was clear without any translation needed. Pumma would always be with him, in his memories and in his heart. "It's time," announced Ethan gently. The platform was ready. Pumma floated slowly toward it but stopped and looked back at the human crew one more time. Its light pulsed in a rhythm that everyone recognized. It was the same gentle, loving pattern Pumma had made when they first found it among the asteroids. "Goodbye, little friend," said Captain Jiho. "We love you." Pumma took its position at the center of the energy matrix. Immediately the chamber filled with the most beautiful music anyone had ever heard. The small creature began to glow brighter, and brighter as it synchronized with the world's heart crystal. The effect was immediate and amazing. The massive crystal's flickering light became steady and strong. The cracks in its surface began to seal themselves. The harsh, broken humming became a perfect, harmonious song that filled the entire chamber with peace and joy. "It's working," breathed Minji, watching her instruments in awe. But the process was taking its toll on Pumma. The small creature's surface began to show stress fractures as it channeled more energy than its body was designed to handle. Its glow became blindingly bright, then started to fade as it gave more and more of itself to save the dying world. "Pumma's life signs are dropping rapidly," reported Sujin, her voice breaking. Through it all, Pumma never stopped making its musical sounds. Even as its body began to crack and its light started to dim, it continued to sing its song of love and sacrifice. The world's heart crystal was now shining with perfect light, fully restored and stable. The planet was saved. 8 billion Zephyrian lives would continue, but the cost was becoming clear. Pumma's glow faded to almost nothing. Its musical sounds became whisper soft. The small creature that had brought such joy to their lives was dying to save a world of strangers. In its final moments, Pumma sent out one last message. Yuna translated through her sobs. "Thank you for showing me what it means to belong somewhere. Thank you for teaching me about love." Then Pumma's light went out forever. Where the small cube had floated, only tiny sparkles of energy remained, slowly dissolving into the restored crystal. Pumma had become part of the world's heart, its life force now helping to power and protect Zephyria for all time. The chamber fell silent except for the perfect humming of the repaired crystal. The humans wept openly for their lost friend. Even the Zephyrians, who rarely showed strong emotions, had tears flowing down their pale faces. "It is done," whispered Ethan. "The small hero has saved our world." 6 months later, Captain Jiho returned to Zephyria to file his final report on the mission. The planet was more beautiful than ever, its cities shining with steady light powered by the restored world's heart. In the center of New Harmony, the Zephyrians had built a monument to Pumma. It was a simple cube of pure crystal that sang with gentle harmonics day and night. Children came to leave small lights at its base, and parents told their young ones the story of the tiny hero who gave everything to save their world. "Pumma's sacrifice has become part of our culture," Ethan explained, as he walked with Jiho through the memorial garden. "Our children now carry small cube toys that sing like your friend did. They learn that true heroism means helping others, even when it cost you everything." Taman had left a small energy cell at the base of the monument, the kind Pumma used to love playing with. As they prepared to leave Zephyria, he touched the crystal memorial one last time. "I still miss you," he whispered. The crystal seemed to pulse a little brighter for just a moment, as if responding to his words. On the journey home, Science Officer Minji made the final entry in their mission log. "We came to this sector looking for minerals. Instead, we discovered that heroism has no size limits and that love truly knows no boundaries between species. Pumma may be gone, but its legacy will live forever in the hearts of two worlds." The Harmony's edge sailed on through the stars, carrying with it the memory of a small cube that chose to give everything so that others might live.